welcome to my first video where I will be analyzing the new Ferrari F80. Since this is my first video, I think I should introduce myself and explain what I'm going to do here on YouTube. My name is Artem, I'm 22 years old and I'm from Russia. Currently, I'm living in Germany. In my opinion, it's still the center of automotive world. What made me interested in cars first and later in car design. So I'm passionate about automotive design. I really like cool looking cars and believe that without good appearance, no one car can be successful. I plan to study transportational design in Pforzheim and to use this time before studying as opportunity to try something new. I'm going to use these videos as a practice opportunity of analyzing continuing process and also as thing which can improve my presentational skills. Currently, I'm concentrating mostly on design and I would even say exterior design and want to share here some of my thoughts, visions and ideas. I admit upfront I'm not an expert or a professional in car design and there is still a lot I don't know about cars, and of course there are tons of rules which makes car looks worse, which I don't know and I don't take into consideration. But I do believe I have an eye what makes design beautiful. So in these videos I will be sharing my thoughts on car designs and cars in general. And before we jump into it, I would like to apologize in advance for my mistakes in my English. It's not my first language, so there might be a few errors. And now, finally, let's get into the analysis. The Ferrari F80 is the latest model from Ferrari, following in the footsteps of legends like F40, F50, LaFerrari, and of course the Enzo. But does it live up to these iconic predecessors? That was my first answer when I saw this car, and right now I think that the answer is rather no. At least in terms of design, and moreover, after sitting and watching on it, I would even say that it looks even worse as by first glance. The engineering part may be really great and probably this car is a track monster, but that's not what I'm doing here and not what I'm focused on. We also don't have to forget that we have Ferrari here, cars which are so iconic and beautiful and attractive, mostly, at least in my opinion, because of design. And because of which requirements to each model are much higher. So now, to dive deeper, I will start by examining the car's profile view first. And what do we can see here? When comparing, I will take its recent models, I mean the Enzo, LaFerrari, and of course F40 and F50, and the first thing that stands out is how overcomplicated F80 is, especially against these other two models. The design seems disjointed and with sections that don't connect it well. For example, the vertical line behind front wheel clashes with door styling and they don't suit well together. The rear overhang here feels reminiscent of certain Chinese cars actually, and the front overhang silhouette is simply just unappealing. If you were to remove the badges of Ferrari and probably paint it in black or yellow or white or blue, you might not even say that this is Ferrari. And I would also note proportions in this car. They are, I would say, in general, quite okay, but they're far away from being perfect, and there is many areas where it's really average. For example, the headlights line, this black line you will see from top, creates a bump that disrupts the front's flow. As we can see, it's not straight and we can see this small convex which make everything worse. And we can see it especially good from side view. And in contrast, the Enzo and LaFerrari generally look like Ferraris. They are elegant and simple without anything unnecessary. Every line and shape is intentional, especially in LaFerrari's case. The Enzo, while a bit unusual, and slightly off proportion with its long nose, is still, in my opinion, 3 times more beautiful than the F80 from this perspective. And finally, having a silhouette of all of them at one picture, which one is the best? Enzo or LaFerrari, or if we'll see, watch this picture, maybe it's a 40 or F50, and LaFerrari, I think probably yes, they are miles away from latest creation. They are much better, and each of them represents the principle like less is more. And all of these cars, this F50, F40, Enzo, and LaFerrari, they look organically. They have no unnecessary elements, and all of them had smooth transitions between each other, while F80 is a mix of different parts which course have a purpose and are in place to perform their function, but there are too much of them, and they simply make car looks really overcomplicated. And it can be good seen from this side. There are too much details which are this car looks really generic. And there is also an aspect which relates not only to Ferrari, to this Ferrari in particular, and this is rather a problem of most of today's manufacturers. This black and gray carbon elements on the bottom. I mean, these gray and black sections, there is a lot of gray here we can see, and all of this makes car much worse. For example, on LaFerrari there is almost no gray or black at the bottom, and because of it, its bottom part looks really better. So these parts are simply disgusting in my opinion, and I would understand when some tier 2 or tier 3 manufacturers like Skoda, Renault or Mitsubishi mounting these plastic pieces on their cheap models and usually on everyday or off-road cars for practical needs. But I'm hating these parts on cars such like F80 because they make car more, I would say, generic and soulless. Because, for example, if we will watch on LaFerrari, we can see here that LaFerrari looks like a single object when what helps to identify it's even as a subject, I would say, given it so. And now look at F80 once again, What we can see here, it's simply a set of different random parts connected to each other, making a car, I would say. And we can see it even better from this side. You see, there are too many different parts which are, I don't know, it seems like we can take it and nothing will be worse. For example, in LaFerrari, you can't do the same. You can take one part and replace it with something else because they all are quite organically with each other and they suit really well together. So I guess now we are quite ready with its size and we can go to its front and rear to overhangs, namely. And now we can try to analyze what we can see on its front bumper. Unfortunately, it doesn't get much better here. So the first time I saw this angle, I was struck by the awkward proportions between the tail and body. I mean, this is basically the daylight opening section, and this is main body. And as we can see, the tail is really small comparing to other car. These spaces on its sides are, I don't know, they are too big, and at least from this perspective, proportions are really bad. Yeah, of course, maybe it's perspective or something else, but F80 in general looks so bulky that it's hard to recognize this as a Ferrari. Some might probably say this is a reference to the legendary F40's angular shapes, but for me, feels like a poor attempt to recreate key features of F40, basically. And those two trapezoidal metal pieces here, I don't understand what is it, because they are entirely unnecessary, at least for me, given the car a really like look that doesn't suit it, because it's not a car for rally. It's a hypercar. And yeah, and I guess probably the most controversial part of this car, namely this black line in the front. What is it doing there actually? This line was reintroduced on the 12 cylinder previously, and it was a tribute to the 365 GTB4, which was a cool fresh air on the market, I would say, and quite decent implementation of an old idea. But on the F80, this line, it feels out of place, and even I would say detract from the 12 cylinders uniqueness and make both cars less worthy actually. So I guess there is not so much to analyze more, because I would actually recall and make also some points about front, but a little bit later. And I guess now we can slowly go to the rear part, which are arguably the best part of this car. And though it's still pretty average and strange, I would say. At least we have to say thanks to Ferrari that they kept the separate rear lights, which are not a common thing nowadays, I would say. So, but let's talk here about exhaust placement first. They seemed, in general, they seemed to make a wide square-like design with big air intakes at the front and side emphasis, and a square top rear diffuser. But the center mounted exhaust pipe breaks that effect completely, drawing attention inward and disrupting the overall impression of car and rear overhang, rear bumper in particular. And the shape of exhaust is itself odd. Why they go with an oval when everything else leans square? A square exhaust would look much better, and in my opinion, I would even separate it in two sections, in two parts, like maybe this, or maybe even in four parts, and I would say I would stretch them horizontally for more cohesive design. maybe I would place it on the sides, yeah, because it would make this car wider. It would appear wider because this exhaust in the center it doesn't suit with other idea which is hidden in this car. And what we can say there more is the F80's rear better than, for example, the rear of 280, which we can see here? I would say no, because this one, yeah, it's maybe a little bit, I would poor, and there is not a lot of details, and it looks really simple, but it's better than F80s, at least in my opinion. And our handcuff F40 is, of course, better than one of F80s. And we can say the same about F50's rear, and I think this is the best rear here. The best rear, at least for Ferrari. I would honestly prefer rear of 280, but this is not really Ferrari design, and F50 looks more like Ferrari, and I would rate this rear higher. And what we can also take, I don't know, for example, this photo and compare the rear of latest model of Enzo, LaFerraris, and F80s, and rear of Enzo is much better than what we have here on F80, and maybe only LaFerrari are not so well, and probably even worse than F80 in terms of rear design, but it's not really. Sorry, there is sound, so I don't know what it. And we can also note here that all previous models kept traditional circular rear lights for their hypercars, which are a hallmark of Ferrari's style, at least for this lineup. And the F80, however, has thin generic lines that make it look more like a generic car, yeah? And this is a big no-no for Ferrari, actually. And to wrap things up, let's look at some recent Ferrari models in general, just for comparison. The, I don't know, Roma 196, Daytona SP3, Purosannia, and of course the F90 all share a consistent design philosophy, I would say. They all look nice, or at very least acceptable, while F80 feels like a step in the wrong direction. It seems like they tried to combine too many ideas, too many features in one car, and as we know, when you are trying to mix a lot of color together, at the end you get the brown one, and it's not really nice. And honestly, it will be now not about design. It will be about cars in general. I mean, why do they really need a F80 right now when they have presented SF90, Daytona, and 296 GT3 in recent, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years? Was it response to McLaren's W1? Maybe, but it's not the best response against, at least in terms of design, and as I understand, as I have seen it in terms of in technical part too, and maybe I'm missing something, but this car feels redundant, at least for me, and in my opinion could have been released much later. I don't think they need it now, and it also feels like for me that this car is not actually ready, and I feel that this car needs slightly more work on it, just to, I know there are so many aspects of design which are so bad and at the same moment quite easy to fix. And yeah, I think it's this release date is actually too early for this car, and yeah, I would say rework this car in general. So it seems it seems that the Ferrari design department lacked the patient for another beautiful model, or I don't know, it was a sequence of bad decisions which made this car looks in best case average. And as we can see now, after 3 or 2 or 4 weeks after release, this car already not even mentioned in social media, so we can say that this car is boring and not really cool. Yeah, I have seen at least several posts during last 5 days about McLaren W1, but no one post about this Ferrari, and I guess it says us about something. So finally, I want to say something about how this car looks in real life. As Ferrari has also published some photos of it on track, and this car definitely doesn't look like whoa. Yeah, it doesn't make whoa effect, despite this is Ferrari. And one last detail which I forgot to mention earlier, namely, sorry for the sounds, I guess, namely these arches above the wheels. They are bad designed actually. It can be well seen on this picture. We have abrupt transition here, yeah, this line which goes here, and there is almost, I don't know, it's of course it's not 90-degree angle, but it's quite abrupt, and this smooth convex that doesn't suit here at all, I would say. It doesn't really suit here. So yeah, actually it's not a it's of course it's small detail, yeah? But in fact these small details are really important, and based on them you can claim if this car was designed good or bad. And I don't know how you can actually make these mistakes. Probably from other perspectives it doesn't look so bad like here, yeah, and for example from this one it's quite okay, but once again in real life we see this and we can say that it's really a stupid mistake from designers. Maybe of course I don't understand something, and probably these arches are necessary here, and there was no way how they could do it better. But yeah, it seems really maybe 3 of 10, not more. And yeah, I think in general that's about it for today. It would be great if I be able to render it in Photoshop and probably show you how I see this car and what I would change here, but unfortunately I don't have such skills, at least at the moment, and probably I will try to do something like it in upcoming videos, but I have to learn it, and yeah, I'm apologizing for it. So yeah, I also will not review interior here because I guess this video will be already too long, and yeah, and I'm not an expert in interior design, and as I have said earlier, I'm more concentrated on exterior design right now. So yeah, I guess it will make the video even more overwhelming and too long. So hope you enjoyed it. Quality, of course, will not be the best, but I have tried my best, and I guess it should be a quite decent level for first video. And yeah, maybe this video also was full of critique and there was no positive moments, and it's not okay, and of course I will try to change it in the next videos. But with this car, is at least from my perspective, it's really bad and I don't like it, and I believe that Ferrari can do much better, especially when you know which amazing, which beautiful cars they have made in recent years. So yeah, I just try to be objective here and and say what I think and feel. I also hope that you have understand my perspective on this car, and if you disagree or want something to discuss, feel free to join the discussion in the comments. I would also like to receive critique from you, and I guess you can even say it even better what was worse, what was bad in this video, and what I have changed in upcoming ones. So put a dislike, don't follow or unfollow, and I wish you a great day. See you in the next videos.